All right, hello everybody. My name is Rich Stellick. I'm a basketball referee, FIBA carded. I'm going to simply present the 2010 rule changes for you. This is just going to be a very quick review of all the rule changes. There are a lot of other examples available to you if you like, but this is just going to be a rule by rule change, basically. So off we go. The court has been changed for FIBA purposes, but very little of that is going to be adopted within the CIS, which is the Canadian universities. But it's still there, and basically very quickly, most of this is not going to be used. The one part that is going to be used is on timeouts in the last 2 minutes, and this is only in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter and overtimes. If a timeout is called in the back court, we're going this way, in the back court, the ball will be placed at the 3-point line arc plus maybe a step. But this is going to be a front court throw-in. What used to happen is it used to be a straddle in those last 2 minutes. Now it's going to be front court only. We'll talk about that in a second. There is a rule change on compression shorts and stockings, but that can be found very easily in the rule book in terms of what you can and can't do. 4.42, by the way, if you're interested in that. The interval of play. This is slight differences in terms of the change for when the interval of play actually occurs. The interval of play, very straightforward, is before the game starts, between quarters, between halves, and then obviously between the fourth quarter and overtime or between overtimes. The interval of play ends when the ball is tossed or the ball is at the disposal of the thrower in. This was obviously different before, but it ends when it is tossed. All right, so as soon as the referee throws up the ball, we're basically playing. The interval is over. Also, to start a quarter, as soon as the ball is at the disposal of the thrower in, the interval is over. The interval of play is done. Status of the ball on the jump ball. Live ball when the ball leaves the referee's hands. All right, so as soon as the referee throws up the ball, leaves the hands, we're fair game again. It's a live ball. All right, doesn't affect a whole lot of stuff, but it's certainly that moment or two can make a difference. Last second shot. The 0.3 seconds that some of you may be aware of from other rule sets has been adopted by FIBA, even though it's been used for a few years now, mentality-wise for FIBA. If there is 0.2 seconds or 0.1 second on the shot clock, or pardon me, on the game clock, if there's 0.2 or 0.1 on the game clock, then you are not allowed to now catch the ball on a throw-in, catch the ball and shoot. You must only tap. And again, you've probably seen this in other scenarios, but this is where the last second shot gets affected on whether or not it's a catch. So if it says 0.2 or 0.1 on a throw-in, and now all of a sudden we have a catch, that quarter is over. All right? If the game clock indicates 0.2 or 1, obviously it has to be a tap. The team entitled to throw in the back court during a timeout, this is what I was showing with the diagram, and that's why I had the diagram at the time. That throw-in is now in the front court, across the across from the benches, and it gets administered there. You have front court status now in FIBA when you call a timeout in that last 2 minutes of any fourth quarter or overtime. Like I said, I just put the ball in play at the 3-point arc plus a step. Basically, you're just going to where the new FIBA 3-point line will be. All right. Unsportsmanlike fouls. The one key thing here is we are only doing unsportsmanlike fouls on those scenarios. So allow me to paint the picture first. Player has the ball out of bounds. And now, before it leaves the player's hand, there's an automatic obvious foul on the defense. In the past, we would call it unsportsmanlike no matter what in that scenario. Now what we need to do is that only occurs in the last 2 minutes. Why? Because the philosophy is thinking that in those last 2 minutes you are trying to stop the clock. So last 2 minutes of the fourth and every overtime after that, if there is a foul committed by the defense before the ball has left the inbounder's hand, it is going to be unsportsmanlike. Any other time of the game, the referee has discretion. It can be common, it can be unsportsmanlike if severe enough, and of course it can be flagrant if severe enough. All right, but it doesn't have to be unsportsmanlike. 8-second rule. There's two things to the 8-second rule: when it starts and when it ends. When it starts, pretty straightforward. There is a change on as soon as any player touches that ball inbounds legally, then the 8-second count starts. It's just as soon as it's touched. It doesn't have to be control, as soon as it's touched. If the ball is in the front court, the ball touches or illegally touched by an offensive player who has both feet in his front court. Now, this is a second scenario, okay? First of all, we've got the play where when it starts. It starts, the 8-second count starts when it touches someone, a legal player, on the playing surface. When it ends is the big rule change. The big thing with this is you have to have 2 points. There's 2 scenarios. First scenario is if we have a dribbler, and the second scenario is when we have a non-dribbler. Let's talk about the non-dribbler first. If a non-dribbler has the ball, you don't have front court status until you are touching some part of the front court. So if you're touching some part of the front court, you have the ball, then you are front court status, but it has to be both feet. If you have 1 foot in the back court clearly and 1 in the front court, then you still have back court status. You don't have front court status until both feet are in the front court. But it can be just a toe, as long as both feet, part of both feet are in the front court. Where we also have a slight difference is when we have the dribbler now dribbling across, all 3 points have to be in the front court, but it could just be a toe. But as long as some part of both feet are in the front court and the ball is also in the front court, now the ball has and the player has front court status. All right, so that's when you have front court status, meaning that's when the 8-second count ends for back court. All right, 24-second rule. This is quite a difference, a change, but it isn't actually that serious. The only time you have a 24-second change to the rule is if it's in the front court only, and when the same team has the ball. All right, so front court only, and the same team has the ball. And here's the other critical piece of that. We would have had a reset in the past. So as soon as you know, okay, front court, it's definitely a reset, then we have this rule kicking in. All right, very simply, if the game is stopped by an official for a foul or violation, we would have a reset. So if we had a reset and it was in the front court, one of 2 things could happen, and I'll flip to that right now. If it's in the front court and we have a reset, it goes to either 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, okay? Because that's what the clock was at before. If it's 13 or less, it gets reset to 14. But this only happens in the front court, and if we would have reset it in the past, then we go to 14 automatically. But if it's greater than 14, we keep the shot clock where it was. That's the change. Everything else just works off of that change. If it was in the back court, we don't change it. If it's a new team control, the other team has possession, they always get a brand new 24-second. All right? So it applies only to the team not in control, all these things with the foul, kickball, that sort of thing. And also there's a note on unsportsmanlikes and tees. If there's an unsportsmanlike as an example, you would get the ball straddling the mid-court line. So at that point, you really have backcourt status. So now, if you have a reset, that backcourt status means that you reset it to 24 because there is no rule change to the backcourt. Okay? No charge semicircle. This is all new stuff that is not coming in, so I'm just going to take it right back off. But as far as what you need to know for OBA and for any FIBA play here in Canada this year, then this is a synopsis basically of all of the rule changes for FIBA 2010-2011. Thank you for your time.